Welcome back to the channel, Orlando. If you are thinking of buying or selling a home in Oviedo, you need to be armed with the data. You need to understand what's going on in the housing market now more than ever, especially if you spend any dramatic amount of time on YouTube or the internet. The clickbait about Florida, the doomers, the crash bros, they are making and pumping out content at a fevered pace, telling you about how much inventory is booming here and how soft the market is. And folks tell me time and time again, reaching out to me in the comments or on email or calling in and saying how much they appreciate the fact that you can actually have data and actually understand the market in granite detail, because now more than ever before, we know markets correct and markets boom in a case-by-case basis. Every single market's different. Markets in general do not act in unison across the entire Orlando metro, the entire state of Florida, and definitely not across the country. But before we dive in, let's talk about why Oviedo is so popular. Now, it's got top-rated schools. It's got a true small town feel with the big city convenience and some of the best parks and nature preserves that you're going to find in the area. Plus the location, it's just minutes from major employers, and it makes it a dream for families and professionals alike. And let's dive into the numbers. And as we do, if you appreciate the time and effort it takes to bring this update, drop down below and smash the thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any great updates on what's going on around Orlando. All right, my friends, let's start by looking at some data on the demographics here in Oviedo in 32765. Look at the population, okay? I know you see this drop off and it's, this is all flat, okay? So even though you see a little bit of a hill, this is a game of inches because the peak right here is 65,000. The numbers you're seeing today are right around 64,000. None of this population has changed dramatically. Now look at this. Let's look at the rate of home ownership in this area. You are going to see some interesting things. You had a peak around 74, 75%. It's now falling. It's at 71%. That's not unusual either. You're seeing people kind of opt into renting because home ownership and home affordability is becoming an affected issue. But look at the percentage of homes that actually have a mortgage. This area had really high mortgage levels in 2011. Look at the fall off to today. Right now, you're seeing 69%. So that's a big, big shift. Fewer people are carrying mortgage. Check the median age out of this area. Right now, 35 and a half, kind of a growing trend, a little bit older, but still for the area, 35 and a half is young. For obviously the Florida market kind of gets put in this class of a retirement community. Orlando is obviously a younger crowd, and Oviedo even lower than the rest of Orlando. It's definitely down. Housing units, same story as population. It's fascinating to see that there must have been some kind of a reduction or demolition of certain properties. Some of you that may know the answer on that might be able to chime in and say, yeah, we lost 1,000 units and here's why. But there was a little bit of a dip in supply, and sometimes homes get, they get added, but they also get subtracted. But this again, look at this. This is not a big change. You're going back to 2011 on the left side of the graph. You had housing units around 21,000. Today it's 23,300. So there's like a 10% change. Most of what we're going to see today, it's going to be an interesting marketplace because this market has not added any significant population, and there hasn't been a builder heyday in this market. A lot of the marketplaces we look at all over Orlando, they're seeing a lot of increase of the amount of supply that's just there at the base level. So areas like Davenport, areas like Kissimmee, Winter Garden, the Horizon West area, even over towards Lake Nona, you're having a lot of permits pulled, a lot of new supply. And so Oviedo, you didn't have this saturation point of an increase in housing units. You actually are very stable. It's going to be interesting to see how our market here is doing as a result. So take a look. This is not a surprise. Active inventory, okay? This is what we like to say is unsold inventory. If this gets really high and out of control, look out. Your marketplace is going to see price reductions. Buyers are going to see a favorable condition to possibly get a better deal. But you do not see this here. And I'm telling you, I watch markets all over the city here. Hey, it's me interrupting myself. You considering selling your home? Make one call, that's all, and put my nearly 23 years of experience and nearly 4,000 homes sold to work for you.
Jared Jones is the way to go. Call 706-5000.
Look at pre-pandemic. So I'm going to show you what you're looking at. This, by the way, comes from the Florida Association of Realtors. This is backstage VIP access you have. You can't get in here unless you have a real estate license. The left side of the graph is 2019 all the way to current data. This is the most recent data we have. Look at where we were pre-pandemic in unsold inventory, okay? Now, by the way, if I pull up almost any other area, except for maybe like Winter Park, some of these other really stable markets similar to Oviedo, haven't added a whole lot. You know what you see? You see 2018, 2019 down here, and you see that it dipped in pandemic era, went way past, and it's actually past where it was. Not usually very far, but it's past. Look where this is. So this year, we saw a run up in Oviedo to about 70 units, which is still not a lot. It's still below pre-pandemic levels. And again, this can be very frustrating if you're a buyer, because that just means you got to scrap to get what you get. There's just not a lot of supply here. And again, look at this. This is not a surprise. Look at the pending sales pre-pandemic. Then pandemic era starts, and you're selling homes 40 to 60 units every single month. Now look at this. We have these interest rates surge up, and what's happening is you have an area like this that already has, 60% of the area, 68% has mortgages. A bunch of people don't have mortgages. The people that do have mortgages might, how many of those are 3%? For whatever reason, you have a lot of people that are just locking in and not moving. So when that happens, it shrinks the size of the entire market. Now, the pending sales volume here is off. So you have a lot of months of negative against 2023, okay? This is interesting. So, and I'm going to tell you, you'd say, well, Jared, why is the buyer, why are the buyers backing away? Can they not afford it? I'm going to tell you, and we can look at new listings right now. Let's see how much listing inventory they have to choose from. Look at the chart. It resembles the pending chart. So remember, up here, you got this level, 60, 70, 80 listings hitting the market. Back in pre-pandemic times, the top highlight of the year was 73 listings hitting the market back in 2019. So June 2019, that's moving season, pre-pandemic, almost 80 homes hit the market. Then in 2020, almost 80 homes hit the market. Look at the highest month this year. We look for it. This last summer, 52 homes was as high as it got, and it was very anemic after that. So in all reality, there's just a smaller market here, okay? There's fewer buyers, and there's fewer sellers, and there's fewer transactions, to the chagrin of all of us realtors and people that want to participate in the market. Let's look at cash sales, because we're noticing cash sales plummeting everywhere. And obviously, it's the same thing here. This is now hitting news, by the way. I just saw a Redfin article come out and say, cash buyers in 2024 were down at like multi-year lows. If you have been watching my channel, I predicted that, because I've been saying on nearly every marketplace, I've been staring at the data. I'm going, oh my goodness, since the fall of last year, look at this. And this is the same thing for Oviedo, 54% down on cash buyers, 10% down, 50%, up 80, but it down, a bunch more months after. Several months series, it was just contracting. For whatever reason, the cash buyers are not moving. And we obviously, 2024, we saw this in the data. Remember the data talking about we had 65,000 net in migration into Florida, which was like one of the lower recent years on record. So fewer people are actually getting into the state. And that just tells us that, people that live in other places that want to come to Florida, they're having a harder time getting to their own equity in those states. So it's like if I'm in Massachusetts or I'm, whatever state you mentioned, you're seeing more supply competing in those areas. Fascinating thing. I'm going to show you something just because you're watching right now, and I appreciate you for doing that. Let me zoom out and just show you a metro area month over month inventory chart, because Florida takes a lot of heat for the amount of homes that it has hitting the market. If you take a look at that, what I'm selecting right here, so you can see the entire country, notice how red Florida is right now, and see how the rest is blue? Usually that's been a bad sign over the past 2.5 years. If Florida is super red and everything else is blue, usually that means something is going wrong for us. And everything else, most of the other countries doing fine. Texas is also usually in the same position. Whatever color Florida is on a map, it's a predictor that things are really bad. But look at this. This is sale inventory growth month over month. What you're looking at is the amount of inventory from one month to the next increasing. Look where it's increasing. Blue means it's going in a bad direction. Red means it's going in a good direction. I have been touting this. In fact, some of my most recent updates I've been doing on this channel, I've been talking about some of the doomers across YouTube saying, Florida's in bad shape, Florida's getting worse. And I'm going, no. There's some trends happening that you need to watch in the past 60 to 90 days that show things are absolutely shifting. And people even call, people that watch my channel that actually like my content, call me and they're like, well, Jared, things are bad, right? In Florida. I'm like, you got to look at the data because it is not what they're saying, but I guess that doesn't get as many clicks. And so we say what we say. Look at the median price here in Oviedo. Okay. So look at this. This is astounding because you can see most charts, if you look at sale price, and if I were to just duplicate what you see in most markets around Orlando, it goes up like this, and then you see a straight line or a declining line, and then maybe some gain back. But usually there's a place right here where, or even back here, where it just goes like this, or it goes down a little and flattens straight sideways. Whereas if you kind of really look back at this, this is kind of on a steady uphill. In fact, the peak of most markets across Orlando is right here. Okay, so right around, if you were to call the peak, you'd say, well, why was that the peak back in the middle of 2022? Well, that's when interest rates went from 3 to almost 8% between this period of time. And that really hit the brakes on everything. But you can see Oviedo is actually making a gain. In fact, it's high. It had a high for that year of 565,000. And this most recent month in December, it hit 580,000. So we're, the interesting thing, if you were to buy a house in summer and you watch the interest rates sail off, it went from 3% and you locked your rate and you were one of the last people to get that low rate. A lot of Orlando, for instance, right here, it's $500,000. If this were the rest of Orlando, it'd be right around here. The price today would be right around 500,000. And Oviedo has been putting some big numbers up. Right now with them being around 580, it shows that there's been kind of a steady tension in the market here, okay? Let me show you something that is actually the best indicator of the marketplace anywhere, and that is called months of supply of inventory. This, my friends, is the best indicator for how active your market is. Now, the higher up the graph this goes, the worse it is for sellers, okay? The lower it goes, so like for instance, when it was riding right here, it's terrible for buyers. Simply put, if this climbs, it's a buyer's market. It has to go way up here for it to be a buyer's market, by the way. There's not even enough room because this graph stops at 3. It needs to be like 6 or 7 for this to be a buyer's market. As you can see, everything on this market is seller favored, okay? It's just a reality, folks. Oviedo does not have a growing supply. This is a landlocked market. So, if you're a buyer and you just stumbled on this video because you're like, hey, I want to buy, got a kid going to UCF or one planning there in the future, and I want to stop here. This particular marketplace around Oviedo has not had massive growth. It doesn't have room to grow. And as a result, it's doing trades in the middle of existing homes, resale only, and there isn't a lot. So there's a tighter supply. And now look at this. Let me tell you what you're looking at, because I told you this is an activity meter. This right now has a 2.4 month of supply. What that means is if you stop listing homes right now, it would take you 2.4 months to completely go to zero and run out. Okay? To give you an example of how hot that is, the rest of the country, according to Redfin, is running around 5 months of supply. 5 months, twice this. Okay? The rest of Orlando is at 3.7. Okay? So to give you an idea, this is about 35% hotter in terms of how tight it is. Just the amount of buyers ready to buy something here and the limited unsold inventory just makes this a very, very tight market. Okay. So the reality is, if you're a buyer and you can kind of get something approximately what they cost 6 months ago, you're doing pretty good. If you can get a house approximately what they were going for a year ago, same house, you're doing really, really good. Okay. Because this is an inclining market. It's not seeing the same marks of settling that you're seeing anywhere near it. And again, I would say that this tells me, and making some predictions in 2025, I think you're gonna have a little bit more supply hitting this market. There's gonna be a few more trades. The market kind of flexes back and forth. Usually, even in Oviedo, if you see a year that has very constrained supply, timing just hits everybody in the market. So there's a reality that most of the folks that had waited this year out, there's a lot of seats on the bus For whatever reason, the people that are waiting are not going to wait as much. There will be more. So I expect to see that this will be kind of stable market, maybe increasing a little bit in supply. But I also believe that the folks that want to live here, we have a lot of buyers ready to go. So we'll have to see how it unfolds. Let me know in the comments which marketplace around Orlando you want to see me do next, and we'll talk to you on the next one. If you're in the Central Florida area and you're looking for a great church, I'd love for you to join me at the Grove Bible Chapel. Just visit joinmeatthegrove.com for full details. When life changes and it's time to move, the process can feel stressful and overwhelming. You need a real estate professional who can make it smooth and simple. That's why you need to make one call, that's all, put my 23 years of experience and nearly 4,000 satisfied homes sold to work for you.
Jared Jones is the way to go. Call 706-5000.